Hello and welcome. Well, if it's good, it must happen twice. And what am I talking about? Well, we had a conversation with Neil van der Poel, and it was a really wide conversation. But just as it got interesting, the show ended. We asked the producers, we asked him politely, and he decided, why not? We have to continue the conversation. And indeed, we were looking at the city and how slums are developing and illegal markets springing up everywhere and how it can be solved. But with me in my hands is Rising Through Cities in Ghana Urbanization Review Report. Fascinating. And I'm wondering, how are we going to sift through these problems? Quite an extensive problem. And WASH has also come out with some statistics grading Ghana quite very poorly, and I'll tell you once the show goes on. And then we ask ourselves, with all the sanitation problems going on, why are we still scoring low marks? Folks, right after the break, I am talking to Neil van der Poel. My name is Nana Sakwao, and this is PM Express. Well, thank you very much for staying. And as I said in my intro, it's a continuation of a beautiful conversation that started days earlier. And with me in the studio is Neil van der Poel, who's also the Deputy Minister for Local Government and also Honourable Member of Parliament for Ododo. And as I say, Ododo is a little world within the city of Accra on its own. And how he handles it, he does it very well. Neil, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Nana.
Today, the issue on board, plenty issues. I'll start with this one. Rising Through Cities in Ghana, Ghana Urbanization Review and Overview Report. I mean, who commissioned this and who did this?
Well, it's the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development with the support of the World Bank and also SECO and also the Swiss government. All is in the wake of the current urbanization program, urbanization incident that is happening throughout the world. And so the World Bank thought it wise to conduct this review and all the urban programs and policies of a lot of African countries, especially West African countries, and see how best they can assist those countries to formulate new urban policies that will help prevent the dangers of other unplanned urban cities in the world.
Now, if I take all the issues or all the problems with urbanization, and we'll try and go them in bits and pieces, if they did in percentages, you have a bigger percentage.
Yeah.
In terms of weak urban economy, over concentration of growth or development in a few cities, land use disorder, unplanned urban expansion, weak rural urban linkages, inadequate urban investment financing, weak urban transportation planning and traffic management. If I take Fadamere alone, that's a huge chunk. Have you given up? I mean, are you overwhelmed?
Oh, not really. If we didn't know the problem, then it would be one thing or the other. But let me take the opportunity first to quote what His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama said when he was commissioning this particular group to do this particular review. He said, and I want to quote him straight, I will go straight without anything. He said, urbanization does not always have positive effects and can instead lead to grave dangers. The experience of other countries highlights barriers to a successful urbanization path that spurs economic growth and improves social inclusion. Many problems associated with rapid urbanization arise naturally from dynamic economic forces when the supply of services, infrastructure, and jobs cannot keep up with the growing demand, leading to inequality, slums, and declining productivity. This is how the president summed it, and that encompasses the inadequacies you've enumerated. So once we know the problem, and the World Bank representative who did the presentation also said it, that urbanization is good. In fact, it's actually good for economic development and prosperity for all. But if you don't do it right, the mistakes that you commit can never be changed. At the recent UN Habitat, they came out with a particular theme. They said the transition to urbanized world is an irreversible, And the mistakes that you also commit if you don't do the right things is also irreversible. What it means is that these are the indicators which have been analyzed. If you don't look and tackle the indicators, the consequences can never be corrected. So I am not overwhelmed because we know the problems.
But we have made a lot of mistakes. And we're stuck with them because we may not be able to reverse it.
That is the essence of this study. What are mistakes we made? Because according to the researchers, according to people who have done the technical people...
Actually, no, let me rephrase. We are still making mistakes.
Yes.
It's not like we have made mistakes. If I say we have made, as if we have stopped.
Yes. We are still making mistakes.
We are still making mistakes.
Yeah. The good thing for us is that we've just been caught up with the issue of urbanization. 52% of our population is now in the urban areas. We are lucky at this point in time to have commissioned such a report, which has come out with a wonderful, most knowledgeable decisions. Nana, as you said, we are lucky that we've made some mistakes in the past and the mistakes have not overwhelmed us. What we need to do is to do what the researchers, the scientists, the geographers, and the demographic studies have shown. What the technical people have said we should do. When we do, we will not only be correcting the small mistakes we have done in the past, we will not also stop doing the mistakes we are still doing, but we will also be able to make this country, our urban cities, resilient.
The report goes further to say, Ghanaian authorities need to generate new sources of productivity to create more efficient urban economies and create livable and inclusive cities that provide more equal access to housing, services, and opportunity for all citizens. Not in our lifetime.
It's a straightforward thing.
But not in our lifetime.
It's possible.
Not in our lifetime.
It's possible in our lifetime. Nana, if you and I decide to do the right thing, it's possible. If all the planning officers, all the city managers, all the development planners, all the economic factors are in place, it's possible. What we are talking about, you see, urban development leads to economic development. Because you create more, the more the people come up, you have the city enlightened, the city opened up, industries will open up, the commercial activity will open up, money will be created. Whilst these things are happening, what must go with it is the necessary infrastructure. What must go with it? Education, banking, connectivity, social services. Once you do these things, it is not rocket science. Once you do these things, it's possible in our lifetime. Let me say this. If you go to a city like Addis Ababa, it was almost growing into a slum. With a committed group of people, committed leadership, technical people, all of them agreeing to the fact that we can't continue this way anymore. We want to change. Addis Ababa is changing rapidly.
If you try to implement this change that you're talking about, the opposition will be on your back and go back to the same people and tell them that, hey, you see, the government has no empathy for you and therefore they're treating you this way. They then turn around and say, well, then we're not voting the government. So whoever is in power at every given time says, you know what, leave it. I'm not going to risk my, my votes by keeping them there. So I'll keep the status quo and win power. And not your fault, but a tradition that has stayed.
I agree with you. Not only the opposition, your own party people. But if we agree, the national development planning, our urban planning, is devoid of politics, is to build the infrastructure and the social setting where our children will live in a very congenial, harmonious environment, where we will not turn our cities into slums. Then, politically, all of us, whether you are an NDC, you are an NPP, you are a CPP, you are PPP, it doesn't matter the political party you belong to. You are aware that this is the way we want to go. Before I came in, Nana, I was watching news on another network. Apparently today, a nuisance that has been happening for some time now If you go to Osu, a lot of arterial roads, mechanics have decided to use the roads as their workshops. Repairing cars on the street, car sprayers on the street. The streets are already small, so it makes congestion. So I think the AMA issued warning, and today AMA went into action to tow those cars for this. You know what? The people who were interviewed said, yes, if the government is preventing me from working, the government wants me to go and become a shadow, so I'll go and become a shadow. One said, government wants me to go and steal, so I'll go and steal. Then people started calling me. Some of my own political people called me. Charlie, what the AMA people are doing, we will lose votes. Oh. You understand? Mm-hmm. The first thing we think about is the vote. Mm-hmm. Instead of thinking about what is good for the country. But as a country, as a people, if we know that what the policy or the program that the country, the city managers, the urban managers, the authorities are embarking upon will ultimately inure to the benefit of the whole society and create a better environment for us, we will not be thinking about vote. We will not be thinking about what political advantage I will take because I'm in opposition. Let me use this opportunity to win votes, make government look unpopular. If you do that, it's so much unpatriotic. You are not nationalistic and you are not patriotic.
Maybe if the same had happened in Fadama, you might do the same because you have a 4-year mandate and it's so short that you would have to think about how do I come back next?
Nana, the people in Fadama understand. Today, once you set up the good infrastructure for them, you say, look, the people there are not happy living in that environment. I'm telling you. I live with them. I talk to them. They're not happy. They wish you have a much more decent environment. A lot of them, let me tell you, work hard, get money, and go look for accommodation outside Fadama, Old Fadama. Today, a lot of them, I can tell you, about 20 to 30% of people who work there actually do not live within that environment. It is a dream of every young man and every young woman in Old Fadama to be able to get a sort of money that will enable he or she to hire a better accommodation somewhere.
What's the population now? 100,000?
It's close to 80,000.
No, I think it'd be more than 80,000 now.
I'm
because
talking
at the census that I got, which was somewhere 2010.
2 years ago, 3 years ago, 2012, the voter population alone is about 50,000. So we estimate that they are around 80,000. And I want to go with that because up to now we've not been able to have a very accurate data as to the people who are there.
I have a report that the president of the association sent to me, and they did a census, not the voter, and I think it was somewhere 2010, and they were close to 80. So now they project they should be pushing 100.
Because
all the other slums that have been destroyed now have moved.
Yes, but I want to use official figure.
Okay.
I want to use official figure so that whatever I will say will be accurate and factual. If what we have on paper estimates around 85,000.
Well, since we are talking about urbanization, we've always heard about we're going to demolish the area, we're going to evacuate the area, and I know it will never happen, it can never happen. However, that problem is going to be solved. What do you have in place so maybe in the next 10 years or the next 20 years, Fadama would have reduced to a manageable size? For extinct, it will never be extinct, but how are you going to reduce it to a manageable size?
Why? It's been done somewhere. In Kenya, we saw it in Kisumu. In Zimbabwe, we saw it in the Bloomfields. In New York, we saw it in the Bronx. In the UK, in Brooklyn. In Brazil, Rio de Janeiro. So it's been done. And if it's been done somewhere, it's possible in Ghana. But now, I will not want to even focus on Fadama because Fadama is just an example to us. We're having slums all over the country. If you go to Takoradi now, around the railway quarters area, there's huge slum coming up. Around the fishing harbour in Sekondi, huge slum coming up. If you go to Tema, slums all over. If you go to La, we have a slum. If you go to Kumasi, around the Doom, around the a Doom area, race course area, slum there. So you cannot really say Fadama. It's a danger to all of us in this country.
Because it's within your jurisdiction.
I sitting here. I want to rather look at
general,
so that the answers that we'll be prescribing will be an answer to all my MMDAs.
Okay.
To be alert, so that the Tama Municipal Assembly, Metropolitan Assembly, will not think that Accra is the only person who has a problem. Who will be now, as we say in Akan, once we are chief, I should be careful of the proverbs here. So, so what I would say that with Fadama, it will take the will. It will also take the sense of human management to understand, one, that the people there are human. They are Ghanaians. It was not out of their own volition that they came there. They were brought there due to a circumstance. And so what do we do? If we have to improve upon their living conditions, what do we do? If we have to relocate them, what do we do? What are the alternatives? What are the provisions that have been made? In the sense of inclusiveness, in the sense of making sure that we change our framework, legal regimes, that will make them, that whatever we do must be, because the international community says that whatever we do as far as urbanization is concerned must be within the remit of rule of law. What it means is that even when we are changing your legal regimes, as far as the metropolitan municipal administration is concerned, you must not just throw your eyes out of the remit of rule of law.
Okay, so now we are extending it above, out of Fadama, so all slums are included. Is there any plan, anywhere to say, look, A, B, C, D in 10 years would reduce it or we eliminate it?
Yes, the new urban policy of Ghana.
And
we've developed a new action plan, urban action plan. The Minister of Local Government has finished with that. It's being accepted by the UN Habitat. We presented the UN Habitat, it's being accepted. And UN Habitat is helping us to be able to put the plan together. We want to even... The launching of this particular review is part of the process, so that urban planners will now know what do we have to do. But you see, what we have done so far is a policy framework that has 3 legs. The first one is a new urban agenda. This urban new agenda is based on strengthening urban legislation. So that, like we said before, if we strengthen our legislation, our legal regimes, we say that nobody should sell on this street. We must make sure we enforce it. Which says that nobody should put a structure here. We must make sure we enforce the law. So strengthening our legal regimes, our legislation, will give us the power to be able to plan effectively and make sure we respect the plans. The other one has to do with developing and implementing national urban policies. That we should not just be planning for Accra. Accra is growing. Accra has a link. Whatever happens to Accra would ultimately affect Tema, affect Ponkatamanso, affect Ningo Prampram, will affect Ewutu Senya, will affect Insawam Edwejiri, will affect Eburi. So when you are planning, you have what we call a dual urban plan. So the urban plan for Accra should also have a sort of sense and eyes towards the urban plan of Eburi, so that what we do, cities expansion. So you'll be expanding the infrastructure of Ponkatamanso, you'll be expanding infrastructure of Ewutu Senya, you'll be expanding infrastructure of Eburi, Insawam, and the rest. So that they will take the pressure off Accra. So AMA cannot sit down and plan alone and say that this is what I want to do. AMA should be planning it together with Ponkatamanso, with Tema, with the rest, so that the general national plan will be linked. For example, if we are going to build road infrastructure, if Accra, AMA want to develop its roads, AMA want to do a dual carriage out of Accra, AMA should be thinking about the fact that if I open up my roads, there will be more traffic moving on that road, so that there will be traffic. That traffic will be entering Ewutu Senya, Ghana South, and then Ewutu Senya. It's just like the road design which was made. We have dualized the N1, but after McCarthy Hill, the road is single. So you see that all the traffic now is at the toll booth. From the toll booth, all the traffic is at Kaswa. So what we should be planning now, if we are dualizing the road in Accra, there will be a spillover because more cars will be flowing on the road. They will not be in single lane and dual lane. So you have two cars moving at the same time. And all these two cars are going to enter a single lane at the same time, all things being equal, if they are going at the same speed. So what you should be thinking about, how do I expand the road in Ewutu Sonya? Possibly the road in Efutu. Possibly the road in
Are you saying that if there are good roads or even good railways, people living in slums in the cities will just hop on the road and go to the next town?
No, what we are saying is that if there are good network system, network systems are all part of urbanization. That is the second issue when we talk about urban policy. Yeah. We should plan a network system that makes it easy for productivity. If you look at the research that was done, close to 38% of Ghanaians use trotro to work. Close to another 34% or something walk to work. 3.5%, 3.5% of the population walk to work. Another 3 point something go on trotro. What it means is that productivity affected. What it means is that we'll have a lot more people struggling for public transport.
What I really wanted to hear was, you see, everybody who lives in a slum, their number one
is economy.
Economy.
Yes, that is the next. That's the next thing.
Okay.
You see, we also need to develop the local economy, the urban economy. Developing urban economy means that creating jobs.
Developing rural economy or urban economy.
When you develop an urban economy, that's what I'm saying, that the planning should not only be Accra. We should be thinking about, when I talk about Ebrin Sawam, we're thinking about inclusive planning. How do we improve upon the economy of Ebrin Sawam? So that people in Ebrin Sawam will not come to Accra.
Okay.
How do we improve upon the economy of the north so that the migration of people down south will be reduced? So the pressure will be taken off Accra. How do we improve upon the economy of all the adjoining urban centers around the capital city? Creating jobs is one. Changing urban municipal metropolitan financing.
We've heard this thing over and over and over. Buzia started rural development. That's when I heard it, from Buzia's time.
My ministry is rural development.
Well, and here we are. I mean, in the Dumasamai region. I mean, as soon as you turn 18, you need to leave. Unless you have an acre of land, you have to leave. There isn't anything there that would sustain you. Now
you believe that some time ago we have what we call rural and what we say cottage industries. It is intention. Very soon we'll be rolling our program. If you come to the ministry, you have 4 thematic areas. You will see what we call small and micro enterprise development in the rural areas. Our contention, the Ministry of Local Government now, is to be able to support the small person who want to do a corn mill, in the village, who want to do apprenticeship, who want to do dressmaking, who want to do hairdressing, and all those things, tailoring and seamstress and all this. So slowly, we'll be linking up a ministry of.
Let me come in here. I think that's also another danger, that because anytime you hear dressmaking, hairdressing, everything, so you never go down to the catchment area and find out what are the needs of these particular people. Is it hairdressing here? Is it fishing? Is it this? Yeah. So that you train them, to suit that environment.
We've done that.
You've done that.
We've done that.
I seem to find out.
I can assure you, we've done that with the restructuring of the Youth Enterprises Authority. We've done that. Every research have been done to bring out the specific needs and the specific economic activity, having in mind comparative advantage for every district, for every urban center. So that what we'll be doing from the Ministry of Local Government, linking up with the year, is not to just do a wholesome thing for everybody. So for example, if you go to my Greater Accra region, you're looking at, if fishing is the mainstay of the people, we're looking at how we can get people to engage in fishmongering, fish processing, all this, how we can get people to even trade in the basic things that we get for fishing. We're looking at a place like Adan area. How do we build small enterprises for the watermelon and the rest that are produced there? How do we get people to get into shallot production, fish farming, shrimp farming, all these small activities in the area, salt production? All these are the comparative advantages of the area. So we'll be exploiting the economic potentials of the area in creating those jobs. For example, you cannot you cannot take the same prescription to the mountains. I've seen economic activity like beads making, gari processing, on a lot of villages from here to Kufrodia. So you'll be improving on that. Look at the economic activity of the Ebri craft village. What do we do to get more youth to be involved in that? How do we expand that activity to create more jobs for those people there? You go to a place like Gotime, where kente weaving is the mainstay of the people there. You cannot say you are taking, let me say, carpentry to Agotime. You're looking at how do we expand, how do we get more of the youth involved in it. Recently, the Cocoa Board, for example, have introduced youth in cocoa production. And I've seen close to about 15,000 youth in the Western region, Brong-Ahafo region, some parts of Ashanti region, Central region area, in the Afosu area, getting into cocoa production. They develop, they planting the nurseries, they doing the new hybrid seeds. So these are the things we want to do. In the past, yes, there has not been strenuous effort to coordinate these activities and make sure people stay within the economic activity. When I was at the Ministry of Trade, and then following the activities of the Rural Enterprises Program, for example, I saw it was fashioned on that line, together with the advisory boards of the various districts. They are able to get people to be customized with a sort of economic activity peculiar to the area. I went to a place like Asante Achem Central, a municipal, that's Konongo, where a lot of people have been, they do a lot of palm processing there. So palm processing, others take the palm process, the palm, the oil for soap production. Then there are a group of young people who are also being put together. They take the soap and go and market the soap in the various villages and communities outside Asante Achem on market days. So from the palm, you have a cycle of job creation that has involved close to about 200 or 300 people from one person who was supported by Rural Enterprises Project. So that's what we want to do. We want to go back to that and make sure we cultivate the rural economic so well that will make it. For example, let me give you an example. When I was growing up in Abisim, near Sunyai, from Abisim area down to the Tano River in Tanoso, a lot of young men were into cultivation of pepper, tomato, okra, garden eggs, and a lot of young people. To the extent that me, a gunman who went there, got attracted. And I was supporting my father and cultivating close to about an acre of garden eggs and okra. And it was good. I remember in 1983, when the problem of food shortages came up, my father was able to harvest close to about 2 bags of garden eggs. I brought them to Accra to sell and take the money back. You understand? So this is what we have to do. We have to make strenuous effort to go by what the people have told us within this, so we can effectively do, because the key in all this, the key is the economic activities and economics of the urban centers. If the population increases in the urban center and there's no commensurate economic activity that will be able to open up and make the people who are within the urban center flexible, it puts a stress on the little, and that is what leads to other activities, antisocial activities.
I'm going to take a break. When I come back, there are 2 things. Coming back to Old Fadama is a ticking time bomb. It's going to explode. Do we have a time frame of when it's going to explode? I spoke to Mark Wayongo, who's Interior Minister, and says, yes, Nana, it's a time bomb. and we are watching it because
but
we won't sustain it. And then after that, the Water, Sanitation and Hygiene, WASH, Performance Index as a comparison of country performance in realizing universal WASH. The WASH Performance Index assesses performance in the following components: water access, water quality, sanitation access, and sanitation equity. The top 5 performing countries in the 2015 WASH Performance Index rankings are El Salvador, Niger, Egypt, Maldives, and Pakistan. The bottom 5 performers are Dominican Republic, Gambia, Ghana, Samoa, and East Timor. After all the cleaning we are doing, how come we are still ranking at the bottom? Don't move, we're coming straight back. Well, thank you very much, and thank you for staying and joining in this interesting conversation, having a heart-to-heart with Nilante van der Poy, Deputy Minister for Local Government, and also Honorable Member of Parliament for Ododo Diodio. We're talking about the issues of urbanization. We're not, Ghana is only not excluded, but well, we're in Ghana, so we are dealing with our own problems here. And also, WASH has come up with a report that says we are ranking, 5 from the bottom in terms of filthy cities. I wanted to find out 2 things. What estimated, when is it going to explode? But before you go, my little research I did, and in 2010, as at 30,000 children were out of school in Old Fadama. 30,000. That's far back as 2010. And so we are now in 2015. God knows how many kids are out of school. I went there personally. There are about 2, 3, 4 schools dotted. There's nothing to write home about. I think they are philanthropists who've set up their schools and, doing their best, which is not good enough. And I interviewed them, and any time I spoke to them, they felt very neglected by society. And they were saying that one day when they come out of Fadama, they will hit airport residential area. Now, I realized that they use airport's residential area not necessarily as airport, but affluent areas that one day will come and demand a pound of flesh from, affluent areas. Most of these people are there because of economy. Apart from the war that they settled and everything, a huge majority are there before. I spoke to Mr. Wayongo, he was on the show, and he admitted that it's a security threat. It's been monitored closely, and it will not sustain.
I agree with you. I was there 2 weeks ago with the World Bank Group, and we saw the situation. I took them there themselves because I want them to have it, because sometimes they see these things in pictures, sometimes they read about them, but I want them to live it. And they took away with them a very realistic impression about the situation from all, because I virtually was in tears when I was narrating to them at the seminar. So I threw a challenge to them at the seminar. I said, if you want to see the problems we are facing and you want to help us, I just don't want you to help us with the sort of knowledge you pick from books or from visual. I want you to go there. I want you to see things for yourselves, and then what sort of prescriptions that will be ideal for us. So we went there, we met all the community the elders, we met the community chiefs. We told them what the problems are. We went there, we saw the schools we are talking about. Those are no schools. The people there have demanded school. But you see, the environment there itself, it's not possible for you to put a well-planned school there.
No, prefab.
Yes. So what we are talking about, they have access to the Yalolo cluster of schools, which is just less than 200 meters from the environment. So they should make it. But surprise, I can tell you, a lot of the children on the Yalolo cluster of schools compound and Richard Akwe are from the community. But a lot more are not. A lot more are not because they will not be taking the school. A lot more are not because some of the parents there are not conscientized enough to know that they have to take their children to the formal educational setting. And they see this educational access created by these philanthropists as good because they don't pay anything. They think that when they take the children to the public school, they will pay something. These ones, they don't pay anything. They only possibly pay for feeding fee. So it's something that we are taking a look at. I'm going to have a meeting with the chiefs of the community again to virtually make sure that we force all those children to go to the formal school, and possibly tell those people who are running those philanthropic schools that you cannot continue to risk the life of children in these ramshackle apartments. So it's a decision that I'm taking. It's not going to be a popular decision, but as a politician, I'm ready to take those difficult decisions and be able to change lives and to impact on people. I don't care. Some of these things will incur a lot of political backlash, but that is why I am a politician. That's why I'm a leader. I should be ready for the difficulties. I should be ready for the challenges, and I should be able to face them squarely, if even it will affect me directly politically. If that is going to create a life, make life more meaningful for that child. Other thing that is the issue you talked about. Now, if you see these kids walking around in Old Fadama, and all that they see from morning to evening, every day of their life, is violence, fighting. They see people smoking, drinking, they see death, filth all the time. What it means is that that's the life we are introducing those children to. And if they grow, they'll think that those things are normal. What is also happening is that the sense of neglect by society become more firm in them. Because some people are mature. They could say that, oh, it's because of hustling that has brought me here. But the young ones that are coming up and growing up with this sense of neglect, sense of hopelessness, could possibly be prone to a lot of problems.
The people in slum areas are refused hospitals, they refuse schools, they refuse all these basic amenities because it is deemed that their settlement is an illegal settlement. Yeah. However, this same illegal settlement, every 4 years, politicians will come and demand votes, and then the votes are therefore legal.
For example, let me commend the Ministry of Health. On consultations, the Ministry of Health, the Osha Clinic, the District Health Officer, Dr. Stella Jemfi, and the rest, having conducting health services for the community, for children, basically for children, antenatal and postnatal. They've been taking care of the children, check malnutrition. The malnutrition nurses from the Princess Malelue Hospital also go there to help them. But with the adults, they always have to access either the Osha Clinic or the Princess Malelue Hospital or the Kolebu Polyclinic. But with the young ones, we bring nursing services closer to them. I am helping the community to renovate the community office. They have an office, so the nurses will use that place to dispense their services. I'm also helping with another area because the community is so big. So we want to have 2 nursing groups coming in all the time. So I'm helping the Zachi, the chief of the place, his place. We want to tar the place, prepare the place very well so that they can also have other health services there.
Let's go back. You see, at the moment, you won't be able to take the children and the people out of Fadama.
No.
My suggesting is that you can take Fadama out of them. And the only way you can do is educate. Change their lifestyle. Yeah. I don't think the cluster of schools next door can do that. I did a research and realized that you can have a whole block for $1,000, get prefab for $1,000, and give those children, if I may use the word poison, but positively, so that by the time they are 15, 18, they don't want to associate with this life and they move out. Yeah. So that in 15 years' time, their fathers and grandfathers will be left, but there will be something out of society. I mean,
it is something. It is my dream. It is my dream, and we'll be talking. Even last week, I had a meeting with all the chiefs, all the tribal chiefs. Last week, I had a meeting with them, and we are following up every 3 weeks. We'll be meeting to address some of these issues. So what we'll be doing is that we'll take a particular issue. If it is education, as we have said, we say within the short term, what do we do? As I said, meet them. See how we can either improve upon those houses or force those children to go to the formal school.
Well, I think if you even apply, good lunch, everybody would bring their child there without even forcing. I'm sure they would turn up.
Yeah, it's true. But you see, the school feeding program go to designated government schools.
No,
the teachers will be posted to designated public schools, teachers.
No,
be sure.
This is a security threat. Does it not supersede anything?
Well, I agree with you, but you see, like you said,
I mean, 30,000, as of 2010, 30,000 children were not in school.
Yeah.
And 35%, I think, no, 76% of the population are under the age of 35. I mean, that's an army.
Yes. You see, when you're dealing with situations where people have already classified as illegal, it becomes difficult. Because you go to talk to people and they look at you and say, what are you talking about? That area is not a legal settlement. So we can do that. I have forced, I've tried. But slowly we'll be able to do something. The consciousness is coming. Like you've said, people are becoming awakened that, look, since the place has become a settlement, whether you like it or not, whether it's legal or illegal, let's take the services to them. We are providing them with water. We are providing them with electricity. So why would we deny them the other essential services like education and health? And that's the reason why the Ministry of Health now goes to them for the services. So I'm hoping that education will also have access, open it up to them. So that, but in the meantime, the difficulty that Ghana Education Service have is the fact that they will want them to rather access a lot more to access. They told me that if I could talk to them, induce them to bring their children to school. Will you believe that there's one school, the headmistress told me, she actually goes in there and gather the children to her school. They come 1 week, 2 weeks, they go back. So we'll do that. We'll do more of that. Because Old Fadama is as you said, it's a time bomb.
It's a ticking bomb.
Yeah. And you see, what even amazes me is the fact that they work hard.
Well, I mean, I was there personally.
They
and
work
it's
hard.
Not every, before I went in there, I thought everybody
people
was going to be
have very
rogue.
negative perceptions of the people there. For example, people think that that place harbors thieves, but I can tell you, no thief can stay in that area. Because they are so united, then because they know that people have this negative perception about them, if you are a thief, you come into that area, they fish you out. They themselves will fish you out. They will hand you over to the police. They formed a very good network where they are able to sense criminals who want to use that place as abode. And they hunt you and hound you out and give you to the police. And that's the reason why the police station was stationed close within the vicinity. And that's one of the ironies. We've placed police station there. We give them electricity. We give them water. Now we are taking health service to them. Why would you want to deny them education? So I agree with you perfectly. We must work towards making sure that we give them access.
Because evacuation is out of the question.
For now, yes.
Evacuation is out of the question.
For now, yes.
Let's move to WASH rankings. Very disappointing. I don't know if I can use disappointing, but maybe should I say expected that, from the bottom 5 performance, Dominican Republic, Gambia, Ghana, Samoa, and East Timor.
No,
2015.
I will not wholly say it's disappointing. We've made great strides. For example, Ghana has been able to achieve the Millennium Goal on access to potable, safe drinking water. We have over 80% of our population having access to potable, safe drinking water. We've performed poorly in sanitation. We've done so well in water access.
Is it not an irony that with all these performances, we still have a mayor that's, globetrotting and getting awards? I'll tell a little story. I mean, maybe I shouldn't say it on it, but I'm hopelessly untidy. Very, very untidy. Drop things on the floor and stuff. If somebody gave me an award to be the most tidiest person, I'd probably hide it or not say it. Because within me, I know that, hold on, how could I have won this? I mean, who were you matching me against to win? So, I mean, when we have our mayor claiming these awards, does he believe that, yes, I won this award?
The awards maybe is on different issue. And the WASH program is not only for Accra, it's the whole Ghana.
I know.
Yeah. And what we have done
but
is
the urban the cities are the most corporate.
I would not want to say we are oblivious of this fact. And if you remember, that's the reason why at the Ministry of Local Government, during the time of Julius Debra, we aggressively started the issue of sanitation. And we got support from Fidelity Bank that we're going to construct close to about 20,000 toilets, household and public toilets. We also got another group that is constructing the biofuel toilet facilities in the various communities. They've started. We signed an agreement with them. They are going ahead. We saw this. The fact was that Ghana as a country and most West African countries, we were always thinking about water because of the consequences of waterborne diseases. We're always aggressively thinking about water. We're not thinking about sanitation. Last time at American Ambassador's residence, when we did this WASH program, I asked them, all of them there, I say, all of us here, we have caused this problem in the world and in Ghana in particular. Because now, when I'm thirsty, I could immediately go and buy a bottle of Coke or any other drink and drink. But if you should get a stomach upset now, Nana, what will you do?
You use the bathroom.
The bath, if you don't have access to bathroom. So we've looked at one side of the issue, and I told them, if you even drink the water and that water is polluted, you have running tummy. There's no access to toilet. So at every point in time, when we are thinking about water delivery, it must go straight and so must be synchronized with sanitation delivery, which we have failed to do. Because if we're doing that, we will not have above 80% access to safe drinking water, but only 30% access to sanitation. I don't even want to use the word sanitation, toilet. You understand? It is an indictment on our conscience as a people.
Rains are coming. What are we doing with cholera in your
we already we've set up an interministerial committee between the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Local Government. They've started working with the support of UNICEF. And UNDP. We started embarking on educational programs, sensitization program. We've rolled some of that. You've seen some of the adverts and some of the educational programs being played out. We also are adopting, working together. I've received proposals. We have received proposals from the Actors Guild, from other performers who will be doing theater for development, going to the communities, perform drama pieces to educate the people on basic sanitation and the things they have to do in order to avoid the incidence of cholera. Cholera is still with us. The remnants of the cholera outbreak last year is still there because a lot more of us are still doing the things we shouldn't be doing. A lot more of us, in spite of the constant things we've talked about on sanitation, the monthly sanitation exercise, are still adamant, are still recalcitrant, are still difficult, are still intransigent in doing the things we are not supposed to do. So, like I have said, strengthening urban legislation is one of the issues, one of the key issues to stemming the tide of these outbreaks. Two, what I want to say is that education is key in reducing cholera outbreaks.
Before you go to education, and this is not your fault, and this is a state issue, the amount of children that we fail year in, year out. And once they've failed in the rural area, they have nowhere else to come and sell shoelaces or PK or dog chains in the city. Then it becomes your problem. How are you, with all good intentions and all these plans you put in place, and the amount of children that we are failing through our system, how are your plans going to work?
The plans are going to work if, as we said, we harness the urban economy very well, strengthening metropolitan municipal financing. We try as much as possible to make urban areas require strong economic growth strategies, review their revenue mobilization mechanisms in order to provide the necessary infrastructure.
You are speaking too much English.
Well, that's the reality. Those are the things we fail to do. As we've said, Nana, in your village,
yes,
if any young man finishes school in the village and knows that the environment, the economy of that area provides hope for him, why would a person come to Accra? To do what?
But the thing is, who's going to bring that? I mean,
the failure is that we are failing the rural people.
And I think, even if the guy had a good opportunity of a good education and they came down, they won't be a burden on you anymore. But it's that they've come down still so ill-educated, they are unable to fit in anywhere than to perch on the street or perch somewhere. You know, the last time they did a census, 63,000 children were sleeping on the street.
That's why we've asked that we also take a reform and relook at our educational system. which has focused more on Western educational systems, which has reduced technical vocational education to like people who do not do well. You understand? We have this perception that those who go to technical vocational schools are those who are not academically endowed.
So I go back to my first question that you are overwhelmed. Not your fault.
Yeah.
The amount of children, I mean, you're talking about, what, 200,000 children on a yearly basis who are unable to move on.
Yeah.
And they won't stay in the local, they will come to the city.
So what provision do we make for them if they are unable to move on to the much more formalized theoretical educational system?
And the people who are supposed to do that are not doing their job. Therefore, they turn up in the cities and become your problem.
That is why there has been a lot of emphasis on making technological education more attractive. For example, the recent upgrade of the polytechnics into a degree awarding institutions is an incentive to make technical vocational education more attractive so that people will know. A majority of schools out there in Europe and America are actually technical educational institutions. Look, we are even looking at the possibility if somebody goes to, let me say, this very good carburetor specialist at Latabi Okoshun, I've forgotten the name, to learn how to become a good mechanic in fixing carburetors. And the person graduates. Why won't there be a collaboration between the MVTI and that mechanic shop so that people who graduate there, even though may not be able to write good English and have all these good morning sir and all those things, their technical know-how could give them a certificate that is also acceptable at a place like STC. So when they are recruiting people, they are not only recruiting those who will be able to speak fine English like me, but they're recruiting people who have also learned the art of mechanic and understand it very well and are qualified to have equivalent of a degree or a diploma.
Would that be implemented by next month, next 2 months?
I've seen the new NAVTech curriculum. I've also seen the educational curriculum, the new educational curriculum that is being advocated by Professor Nana Ajiman. They are doing wonderfully well. They're trying to coordinate the activities of these vocational institutions and all these accredited or award institutions.
30 seconds. Tell me about, because I know your ministry is now gathering the speciality of all locals so that if somebody came to invest, you can point them to that region, 30 seconds.
I don't know what to say, but the issue is that it's a program we are doing. All this is also to open the local economies.
To international.
Yes, seriously.
We'll talk about that.
Thank
you very much, folks. Thank you very much. All time is up. But Thursdays, those of you who follow me on Joy FM, that's my opinion. And I'm saying that their ways are not our way. But what is our way? Isn't it tricky? Talking about authorities and the average citizens. The authorities seem to be doing their own thing, but what is it that we want that they don't do for us? We have to find what the disjoint is. I want to say thank you very much to Tanti's Fashion, who designs all my African prints on the show. And if you want to read Tanti's Fashion, it's 024 366 2001. You can find them on Facebook as well. Thank you very much. And tomorrow we'll be back to do this all over again. Thanks again for coming, but this conversation has not ended.
No. It can never end.
No.
Because the problems of the cities will never end.
So we'll continue talking.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.